this story. Climate and weather-related disasters are striking the world 4 to 5 times more often and causing more damage than in the 70s. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization. It seems these disasters are killing fewer people, though, but the economic ramifications are growing rapidly. The report issued earlier this week shows that from 1970 to 2019, natural hazards accounted for 50% of all disasters. But what does this all mean for us here in South Africa? And are we ready for what might come? Well, to help us understand this and unpack it further, I'm joined by Global Change Institute's Professor Francois Engelbrecht, of course, based here at Wits University in Johannesburg. Prof, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you. Nice to talk to you again here on eNCA. Yeah, well, when I saw that report being mentioned, various media globally, just a couple of days ago, and I thought, okay, what does it mean for South Africa? But before we get there, just your comment on that report. I mean, from a climate change perspective, are we now really seeing the impact of that?
Good afternoon, Dan. Thank you for this invitation. Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, we have no choice but to report that unprecedented weather events, specifically extreme weather events, as has never been seen before on the planet in the historical record. These types of events are systematically occurring more and more frequently across the planet. So there's a clear increase in these types of events over the last 5 decades. And of course, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen types of extreme weather disasters such of the like we've never seen before in the historical record. So the evidence is very clear that the increase in these extreme weather events is the consequence of global warming. The physics are actually quite simple. The more we warm the planet, the more energy there is available in the system for intense weather systems to develop, and also the more moisture we have available in the atmosphere. So the warmer the atmosphere is, the more water vapor, the more water can eventually fall from intense rainfall events and storms. So yes, global warming can be directly tied to these increases in extreme weather events across the planet.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of years ago, we saw those 2 big cyclones hitting the coast of Mozambique, and some of the wet weather came right across our part of South Africa, heading towards Botswana. Watching the visuals coming out of the US the other day with Hurricane Ida, I was just wondering, should we expect more tropical storms to hit us here in Southern Africa?
Then I'm very happy that you mentioned the example of tropical cyclone Idai. We cannot overemphasize what an immense disaster this was. So I can just remind the viewers that more than 1,300 people lost their lives in the path of tropical cyclone Idai back in March 2019. And that was the consequence of the storm surge, that wall of seawater that moved from the ocean into Beira. But of course, it was also the result of flooding from the big rivers, for example, the Bushu and Pungwe rivers close to Beira, mudslides in Zimbabwe. There was also flooding in Malawi. But that is the biggest flood disaster we've ever recorded in Africa, south of the equator. And with the possible exception of a big cyclone that hit parts of Indonesia back in 1972, it's actually the biggest flood disaster in the historical record in the southern hemisphere. So unfortunately, the same physics are working in our region. Also in our region and in the Southwest Indian Ocean, tropical cyclones are becoming more intense as a consequence of global warming. And the risk of these category 3 to 5 hurricanes, as they are called in the North Atlantic Ocean, the risk of these types of systems reaching Mozambique is already higher than what it is supposed to be. And what too few Southern Africans realize is that the risk now exists for the first time for such an intense cyclone to reach Maputo or to move into the Limpopo River Valley, or even to make landfall as far south as Richards Bay in South Africa. So even northeastern South Africa is at the risk of such a system for the first time as a consequence of global warming.
Doctor, that's Professor Francois Engelbrecht. So be warned, you're going to get more severe weather as a consequence of global warming. If you have the time and the appetite, do yourself a favor, get that World Meteorological Organization's report that was issued this week. It's going to get tougher, and of course the economies are being damaged more and more. Besides, people's lives are going to be lost more and more. Okay.